Please welcome Ben Frow.
Hello. Hi.
So, Ben, you are the Chief Content Officer at Paramount and Five. How do you describe your job when you're telling people?
My job is to decide what content we make, what content we commission, what content we buy, how we play that content out, what day it plays on, what we call it, where the budget gets spent. Am I spending my money on movies? Am I spending my money on drama? Am I spending my money on a history program? I am ultimately responsible for everything that happens editorially and content-wise. I'm not very good on budgets, and I don't do any of the kind of operations. I can't tune in to television or anything.
Okay.
It's all about ideas, audience, how do we compete against our competitors, what do we need to do to bring in viewers. Let's do the best we can. Paramount is a global organisation. It's recently been sold to Skydance. It has within it a number of things. It has Channel 10 in Australia. It has Channel 5 and our flanker channels and our streaming service in the UK. It has Telefe in South America, but it also has Paramount Plus.
Okay.
And then we have Paramount Plus UK within our offices, but it tends to be more of a sort of small operation because the pipeline of content comes from America. And although we have made a few things for Paramount Plus because we have EU quotas, that's probably going to change going forward. I think the business plans to sort of separate Paramount Plus streaming from Channel 5 streaming, and have different operations.
Okay. The industry, and I'm sure people in the audience would agree, is in a strange place, or at least that's the sort of whispers in the willows, right? That the industry, since the strikes in America, that there's no jobs, that everything is complicated and difficult, and yet Five is thriving. Can you speak a little bit to the moment that we find ourselves in and how Five is responding to that moment?
Well, I think the benefit of never having very much money is that you've never had very much money. And I've always worked for channels that have very little money. So our budget is, call it 200 million a year. Channel 4 have about 700 million a year. ITV have about 1.3 billion a year. And I still have the same amount of hours to fill. You know, I've still got the same amount of channels to fill. I've still got a streaming service to fill. I've still got my public service broadcasting remit, which means that I have to do kids programs and news and current affairs and things. So the money's the money. And so when you're used to working with very little money, it becomes about how do I take this money and use it in the most creative way? And I think if you look at Channel 5, you'll see that a lot of our content is as good, if not better, than some of our competitors, but it costs generally half or a third of the price. Some of you will remember Five in the old days. I'm not going to mention the three letters of whatever it is, the alphabet that was so famously branded about Channel 5, but we were known as very down market and grubby, and I didn't help. You know, I have three of the top four most controversial programmes in British television, number 1, number 3, and number 4. But when I came back to Channel 5 in 2013, it was all about trying to undo that damage. And one of the first things I did was decide that buying American content, American dramas, and playing them at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, NCIS, CSI, they were stalwarts of the schedule. Big Brother was a stalwart of the schedule. We did 3 series a year. And I believed that if we were going to really prove that we were as good as our competitors, we had to do original programming. We had to make UK content by UK producers for a UK audience. Yeah. So it was the right thing to do. And now, you know, when I arrived, 50% of our schedule was originated. Now it's 83%. You know, 46% of our spend is in the regions, particularly in the north. We're very, very keen on supporting small regional companies. And I think it's paid dividends because, apart from anything else, we've attracted incredible talent to Channel 5.
Incredible.
I think Michael Portillo was one of the first people to come over, and he set such a bar, because if Michael Portillo, Tory, blah, 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 is going to come to down-market Channel 5, it can't be that bad a place to work. And now, of course, we have an incredible roster of talent. There's nobody who we haven't been able to get, because while we may not pay as much as other people, we allow people to do things that they want to do, that I think are right for their audience, and also we don't interfere. We let producers produce, directors direct, and we're sort of all in it together to just try and provide great content. And there's always a conversation to be had about money. It's never about how much money you have. It's about what do you do with the money you do have? How do you spend it, on what? And how do you change the editorial in order to be able to get a show that will work for you and for the audience?
So it's just more jobs?
Well, the idea is to keep people employed and
Yeah.
to create more jobs and to build up companies. Daisy Beck in Yorkshire were bankrupt when I joined in 2013. They make the Yorkshire Vet apart from anything else. It's about to celebrate 10 years. They've employed over 100 freelancers in that time. They've provided regular work. They've been able to educate children. They've been able to get people mortgages. They've built up a huge production base in Yorkshire that has a number of shows now going. It's a real proper production base. And now they are supporting smaller indies to try and get business in the northeast growing, which has really declined a lot. And so you like to think that you're not only making great content for the viewers and you're getting the advertisers in and you're making your profit as required, but you are absolutely transforming lives. You are enabling people to build a successful business. So you kind of go, well, who's going to give the jobs to the people who haven't got any experience? And I don't think it's my responsibility to bring back Play for Today. That's not my responsibility. I think the BBC should be doing that. That was their series after all.
Yeah.
They've got all our licence fee, but they're not doing it. Seb, who's coming on in a minute, will talk a bit about how he turned that into not only a creative tool for Channel 5, because my idea of doing it was really to give Sebastian and Paul, who look after drama, just two of them and a half another person. But he's turned it into a kind of social campaign to enable people who would never normally get the chance to work in television. First-time writers, first-time directors, first-time producers and things from lower-income background. And I think, wow, that is for me doing my public service broadcasting. It's creative, but it's also potentially transforming lives. We're hoping to find some great talent of the future. Yeah. It costs me £350,000 an hour. That's an expensive hour for me, a very, very, very expensive hour. That is the total price I pay for 1 hour of drama. And you'll look anywhere else, and nobody else is paying £350,000 for an hour of drama and getting top talent into it. But people want to work, people want to write, people want a chance to prove themselves. And I think the Play for Today initiative is something that really does do that.
So let's bring out Paramount UK's Head of Drama and Deputy Chief Content Officer, Seb Cardwell. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So we've talked about commissioning over 100 hours of drama this year, which is, as we've said before, a lot of jobs and roles for people potentially in this audience in the future. How have you managed to achieve this? You do seem to be a bit of a secret weapon at 5.
I think we've achieved it by doing it differently, essentially. We started in 2019 with just 2 shows. One was called 15 Days, which we shot out in Wales. Another one was called Cold Call with the amazing Sally Lindsay from a company called Clapperboard, who were a factual company who wanted to get into drama, and we offered them, what, 250K?
Yeah, so
like that?
in my budget, I decided to give Seb, I carve out a budget and say, you have, you know, you're in charge of drama now, you get £250,000 an hour, that's all you've got, make it work.
Yeah.
Just bring me drama. And that's
So
that's sort of what it did. But what you have to understand is that that's money going on drama that I'm not spending on other things. So in case you go, more drama.
And also, I'd never made any television as well.
He doesn't know how to
it's
do
the
drama.
other important point. It doesn't really know how drama works,
Yeah.
I think.
I think
So Mike pitched this thing called Cold Call, and I remember thinking it was about a woman who gets revenge on cold calling scams, but it was a kind of young screwing show. I was like, oh, okay, maybe if we make it a kind of Cocoon-esque thriller, and I think that might work with our audience. Then you'd met Sally at some event.
Yeah, Sally had asked if I wanted to do a comedy with her, and I said no, but I don't. But if you ever want to be in a drama playing against type, I'll take that.
Yeah.
And it
So
came together.
So it came together. So we cast Sally. We had these writers who we don't work with anymore, but they did an okay job. And we went and did it guerrilla style up in Manchester. I remember it's the only set visit I've ever done, and it was to Manchester. It was not quite exciting, and it was a nightmare. It was a shit show, and we didn't really know where the show was going, and we didn't really have an ending. The continuity is terrible. But it went out against I'm a Celebrity, which is obviously like one of the biggest shows on British TV. But it was the biggest show of that year. It absolutely smashed it. So in TV, you find something that works and you do more of it because that's the name of the game. It's a hits business. So we just started making more shows with companies like Clapperboard, who weren't those kind of established, slightly snobby drama companies who probably would kill themselves, who shared our philosophy, who would find any way to get a show funded, who would find talented filmmakers and production crew to work with us. And that company last year, Clapperboard, made more shows in the UK than any other scripted companies.
And what can you tell us about the importance of co-productions these days? It seems like that's at the network
It's massive.
more and more part
I think it's
of the
important
deal.
to say that when Seb was doing this, 5-6 years ago, he was breaking the drama model. This was not the traditional way of doing it. People would pay a lot more money. So he found a way to make drama. And what's happening now is that the whole industry is looking at our model and going, you know what, why am I paying £5 million an hour? I don't need to pay £5 million an hour. I can pay £1.5 million and I can get it deficit funded, which is why it's becoming harder to fund dramas through deficit funding because everyone's now copying Seb.
Yeah, so you have to have either a distribution entity putting money into your shows. So we'll take the UK and then they'll put in a lump of money and they'll go sell it internationally, or and tax credit. To be honest, we shifted our production away from the UK into Europe because we couldn't keep up with the rising cost of production, and it's a huge problem which is now kind of having major issues for the industry here. Obviously, you know, if you're paying, say, $250, I think when we started, maybe up to like $300 now per hour, you can't make a show in the UK on that tariff right now, maybe up in the Northeast. So we shoot a lot of our shows in Hungary, in northern Spain, in Ireland, Malta. I mean, basically anywhere where we can shake down people for money, if I'm being brutally honest. And then we rationalise the budgets. We might have a co-production partner. We might work with someone in the US or a streamer, or Acorn or BritBox or Masterpiece. And these are the people who fund things like The Hardacres that you just saw, or All Creatures Great and Small, or Murder Before Evensong. So slightly higher budget shows. But yeah, without those components in the budget, you won't work. It won't get off the ground.
So you'll notice that we might not have as many locations. You might not quite have as many lights. You might not quite have as many extras because we're looking to make drama for a reduced cost. But that Seb's got a campaign going to try and get the government to lower the tax break in the UK. At the moment, you only get the tax break if you spend over £1 million an hour.
Yes.
And we don't.
So basically, what's happening is there's you might have heard of it. So there's a big campaign going on to increase the tax break between 1 million and 3 million. Okay, and that's because there's lots of production companies and channels like BBC One and ITV and Channel 4 who operate in that area, and that's great, and we support that. But the problem with that is that you've got another thing which is going on in the UK, and that's the decline of continuing drama, soaps, if you will. So Doctors is gone, Holby's gone, River City's gone. The ITV soap hours have reduced. And this is crucial because soaps are where people get their first breaks. Soaps are where actors get their first roles. It's where production crew get to cut their teeth. So not only have you got these hours being shrunk down, you've also got this middle territory completely contracting as well because prices have got too much because the streamers came in. And then you've got the streamers at the top who have a monopoly but don't really commission that much. I mean, we all love Netflix, but they don't actually do that many shows. So you've got this kind of perfect storm of factors crunching down the ability to get shows made. Now, we do lots and lots of shows across Europe. We're very clear. If the government raise the tax threshold, raise the actual amount and then lower the threshold, we'll commit to bringing some of our shows, and we're growing our slate of shows, back from Europe into the UK. And these shows can replace what the soaps used to do, and they can provide lots of opportunities for the next generation of talent to come through. It's really, really important because there's such a focus on the mid-range that we're kind of forgetting our heritage. We're kind of forgetting the shows where, Kay Mellor came up through the soaps. Sally Wainwright did as well. These are important shows. So that's our kind of
play. Play for Today is so vital. I mean, it's so exciting that that's back because at the moment, the shows that I'm working on, I've done maybe, 6, 7 shows for the Paramount family. I think only one of them was shot in the UK. Yeah. So obviously our leads are coming out from the UK, but all the supporting cast is absolutely not coming from the UK talent pool, which is devastating.
You're not filming in Manchester, so you're not feeding into the economy in Manchester, so the caterers and the dresses and the taxi companies and all those kind of things, and the hotels, they're all missing out. I mean, it's just a no-brainer in my mind to get that threshold lowered so that the country as a whole can benefit so much quicker.
I went to Wales earlier this year and I visited a few studios, complexes, and they're not booked up. The projects haven't landed this year. And I think, that's only going to get worse over the next 3 years. So we implore you to support our lowering.
So I'm going to find out from our government relations person what the line of communication is, and we will send it to the guys here, and they will put it onto their app or whatever it is. I don't even understand all that kind of stuff. And any support you can give, it'll drop down and you'll find it, which is like, which we're just trying to get the government to understand by making this change, it will provide a lot of jobs, it will bring a lot more money into the economy, rather than going to Malta or northern Spain.
Yeah, and it's not just that we give them work. As part of these tax incentives in foreign countries, we also have to provide training. So we're actually training up the next generation of talent in foreign countries, yeah. Which you know, we want to support as well. But I think it's a shame that that funding isn't being used here.
Well, the reason we're here is because Spotlight would like to acknowledge the outstanding contribution Five have made to the UK jobs market this year, and to present Ben, Seb and your team with the Broadcast Award for outstanding contribution to job growth. So please welcome star of Murd Before Evensong, Tamsin Outhwaite.
Guys, congrats.
Thanks very much indeed.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And another award for the shelf.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you.
Tamsin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks
Obviously,
for
you've
having
been
me.
part of a couple of shows on Five. What drew you to those shows? What was it that made you want to get on board?
Mainly because, as a woman of a certain age, because my working with Five has only been very recently, the last few years. And as a woman of a certain age, I wasn't seeing myself on television or represented in a particularly inventive way. I would say I would see a lot of girlfriends, a lot of mothers, sometimes grandmothers, actually, the friend next door, but never leading from the front. And I started to see that Channel 5 were making shows with strong women of a certain age where they were the lead. And seeing my contemporaries, Sally Lindsay and Jill Halfpenny, and I thought, they're doing really well at Channel 5. This looks like Channel 5 have a plan. And so when I was reading the scripts for The Wives and Murder Before Evensong, I thought, this feels like a family that's very welcoming. I'm from a theatre background, and there's an awful lot of similarities, it feels to me, where, yes, we do make things work. You know, if you want something done, employ a theatre kid. I've always said it. And so I've had challenging financially, because that's what they do, but extremely positive experiences on both jobs. With other brilliant women. Let's face it, women of a certain age, they have a lot to say for themselves. They've lived, if they're still in this industry, they're extremely resilient at that age and wise. So I wasn't seeing those stories, and now I am. When I turn on Channel 5, there's an awful lot of choice. And I think, as someone that only worked on 1, 2, 3 and 4, it's very welcome for me at my age. I'm really enjoying it. Thank you.
Now that we have more mini-series on Five, for example, that does provide more jobs, right? It's a way of people getting their foot on.
Absolutely. The new homegrown talent. I mean, that's what we should be nurturing, is how I feel.
Yeah.
Feels like... Julia used to do it with theatre people, bring theatre people into EastEnders, because how else would those brilliantly trained theatre kids get jobs on telly? And you were a prime example of making that work. There were all these people from musical theatre that came onto EastEnders because you saw that. And I think Five is leading the way at the moment with that.
We're reaching the end of our session, but congratulations so much on this award, like genuinely. As someone who has been employed by the company for a while, it truly is a fun, and you say it does feel like family. Do you have any words just for the audience and for the people who watch this about the state of the industry at the moment, and anything that they can take to their hearts in terms of
it will adjust.
words?
It will adjust. You know, newspapers have been through this kind of turmoil. Television's going to go through it. Theatre's going to go through it. We've always come out the other side. Out of necessity comes whatever it is. Where did I read somebody saying that when the camera was invented, they thought the portrait painters wouldn't have a job anymore because nothing could capture the likeness like a photograph, and you know, people still paint portraits. So it is challenging, but it will pass. What I would say is that the days of, you know, turning up when you fancy, being paid a huge amount of money, X, Y, Z, are probably over. Yeah. Everybody is looking at, how do I save money, and who am I going to employ who's, as Tamsin said, is prepared to roll up their sleeves and just muck in, not be paid as much, but have the experience of doing their craft, which is the most important thing. People want to do their craft, and at the end of the day, you know, it's actually not about money. It's actually about being creatively fulfilled. Whether you're a writer or a director or a producer or a performer, you just want to be able to do what you do. And I like to think that we will continue to do more drama and give those people the opportunity to experience what they should be doing in their lives.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you so much to everybody, and thank you so much to the panel. Please give me a round of applause.
Thank you.